Right. Hello again, it's Jack Carter. Today's date, March 18th, 2026, day 19 of the conflict most outlets call the 2026 Iran War, sometimes framed as the US-Israel War on Iran. Military planners labeled the opening operation Operation Epic Fury. Israeli briefings used Roaring Lion in places. This episode has one aim: to give you a calm, chronological briefing. How we got here, what's happened so far, and why, as of right now, there's still no ceasefire. I'll be blunt where it matters and measured where it counts, because this isn't theatre, it's people's lives. Quick headline first. There is no ceasefire. Fighting is intense across multiple fronts. Israeli and US strikes inside Iran, Iranian missile and drone barrages against Israel and American positions across the Gulf, and a campaign of targeted assassinations. Casualty estimates are grim. Conservative tallies put regional deaths at over 2,200 so far, with hundreds of thousands displaced. Ports are curtailed, oil prices volatile, and the world is feeling the ripple effects. Look, we need the backstory. This didn't explode overnight. For years there's been a pattern. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated militias on one side, and US and Israeli covert and overt responses on the other. The JCPOA collapse left a dangerous nuclear question unresolved. Direct exchanges picked up across 2024 and 2025, sabotage, strikes, interception events, and diplomats could never quite stitch a durable deal back together. By January 2026, Iran's internal repression worsened the tinderbox, a brutal crackdown on nationwide protests that international monitors say killed thousands. You had diplomacy in one room and escalating military preparations in another in February. That paradox is what made a rapid, large-scale strike possible. Then the opening blows. Late on February 27, the US authorized Operation Epic Fury, executed alongside Israeli forces. Over roughly 12 hours, there were approximately 900 precision strikes against missile launchers, air defense systems, suspected nuclear facilities including Natanz, key bases, and leadership compounds. The strikes removed senior Iranian leadership, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and several high-ranking commanders. That was seismic, the kind of action that changes the structure of a state's command and control. The coalition argued it was necessary to prevent a nuclear-armed threat and to protect US forces and allies after repeated attacks. From the US perspective, these were defensive, preemptive measures aimed at saving lives and upholding international security. I'll underline, the US framed its role as protecting freedom and regional stability. Minab remains the tragic, awful part of those opening hours. A strike near an IRGC naval base hit what local sources report was a girls' school. Roughly 170 to 180 children were killed. There's no glossing that away. Coalition briefings insist precautions were taken and that some targets were believed to be military. Still, the loss of children shakes you. It's also a political problem for the US and Israel. Even staunch allies demand accountability and better protection for civilians. Iran's immediate response, True Promise 4, was massive. Tehran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and a reported thousands of drones at Israel and US allied bases across the Gulf. Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq, and Oman. Damage was reported to military facilities, including the US Fifth Fleet HQ in Bahrain, and to civilian areas in Israel and Gulf commercial zones, including Dubai port adjacent facilities. Cyber attacks accompanied the kinetic campaign. The Strait of Hormuz was disrupted. From a US standpoint, the response confirmed that Iran had the capability and intent to project asymmetric power, and that American forward presence and regional alliances were crucial in countering it. The conflict widened in the first week. Continued US-Israeli strike waves hit Tehran, command centers, and alleged dual-use sites. Iran's naval losses included the sinking of the IRS Fateh. Tehran's offensive output in that week was extraordinary. Estimates at the time put missile launches in the hundreds and drones in the low thousands. Hezbollah entered the fight on March 2nd, firing rockets into northern Israel and drawing Israeli strikes into southern Lebanon and the Beirut suburbs. That opened a Lebanon front and created mass evacuations. Economically, the first week pushed oil prices up, shipping insurance higher, and raised fears over global fuel supplies. Politically, Tehran moved to consolidate leadership. The Assembly of Experts appointed Mujtaba Khamenei as Supreme Leader around March 8th, signaling continuity and a hardened stance. Into weeks 2 and 3, the war shifted into high-intensity attrition. Iran claimed, in its own tallies, hundreds more missiles and thousands of drones launched overall. Whether those exact figures are inflated or not, there's no question of scale. Coalition strategy focused on degrading Iran's missile inventories, striking energy-related infrastructure at sites like Bushehr and South Pars, and disrupting missile production. The US and Israel also intensified a leadership targeting campaign. Authorizations were given to go after senior figures in the Iranian and Hezbollah command structures. The goal, publicly stated by US and allied officials, was to degrade Iran's ability to wage asymmetric campaigns and to protect regional partners. There were costly spillovers, deadly strikes in Beirut, heavier Hezbollah barrages, and militia attacks from Iraq, prompting US retaliatory strikes. Inside Iran, the regime imposed internet blackouts and emergency measures. Yet, despite the hardship, there hasn't been a successful mass uprising that dislodges the clerical elite. The last few days, March 14 to the 18th, have been especially fraught. Israel has carried out strikes, killing senior figures, including Ali Larijani and Baas's chief Gholam Reza Soleimani. Their funerals became flashpoints for vows of revenge. Around March 18, Israel claims to have struck Intelligence Minister Ismail Khatib. Iran fired additional barrages and notably used cluster munitions in strikes aimed towards the Tel Aviv area. Ramat Gan was hit. Interceptions worked, but not perfectly. 2 civilians, an elderly couple, were killed in one recent strike. Israel's defense officials and US partners warn more surprises may come. The US remains publicly aligned with Israel militarily and diplomatically, stressing that it seeks to protect American personnel and regional partners while trying, where possible, to limit civilian harm. So why no ceasefire? The answer is blunt. Both sides have objectives that make an immediate stop improbable. From the US and Israeli angle, the objectives are clear and, in their view, legitimate: to degrade Iran's missile and nuclear capabilities, diminish its navy and proxy networks, and remove the ability of Tehran to threaten neighbors and global commerce. US leaders argue these strikes are defensive. They protect allies, secure sea lanes, and prevent an emboldened Iran from obtaining a quasi-nuclear weapon. Some US rhetoric, notably from President Trump, mixes strategic aims with domestic political language about regime behavior and encouraging Iranians to rise up. Iran, for its part, has said it will fight to the finish, refuses temporary ceasefires unless conditions are met, and blames the US for initiating the conflict. When one side seeks decisive degradation and the other vows to resist until survival is assured, you get a stalemate. Neither trusts the other to honor guarantees. Neither sees a reliable off-ramp that preserves dignity and security. That mutual maximalism and distrust are the heart of why a ceasefire hasn't materialized. Lastly, the consequences are global and human. Oil and gas markets are strained. Elevated prices hit consumers worldwide. Supply chains and shipping face delays and higher costs because insurers and operators reroute around the Gulf. Infrastructure damage in Iran, Lebanon, and Israel is severe. Hospitals, schools, ports, and power grids hit. The IAEA has been monitoring nuclear sites closely. No catastrophic radiological release has been confirmed, but the risk is real. And always remember, civilians are paying the price. Minab's children, families flee in southern Lebanon, Israeli towns under rocket barrage, and US and allied service members killed. Those are the costs. The US narrative stresses protecting civilians and defending allies. Critics say military action risks prolonging suffering. Both points matter. So, where does that leave us? A sober recap. Long-running proxy tensions and failed diplomacy set the stage. Operation Epic Fury's massive opening strikes and Iran's true promise for retaliation changed the map. Week 1 saw Hezbollah's entry and regional spread. Weeks 2 and 3 turned into attrition, infrastructure strikes, and leadership targeting. The last days brought high-profile assassinations and revenge barrages. And as of March 18, 2026, there is no ceasefire. Casualties exceed roughly 2,200 and displacement runs into the hundreds of thousands. The situation is volatile and evolving by the hour. Details may change after this recording. A final note to you listening. Follow reputable outlets and international monitors. Question unverified social media claims and demand humane, practical policy from your leaders. If you support the US and its allies, do so understanding the moral weight of military action and press for robust humanitarian responses alongside security measures. We should stand for freedom and the protection of civilians. The two aren't mutually exclusive. I'll keep tracking developments and bring you updates as verified facts emerge. I'm Jack Carter. Take care, stay informed, and please be kind. Good night.